Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the 9th Annual MSU Science Festival. My name is Catherine Hagman. I'm one of the organizers of the Science Festival. So happy to have you here today. And today I'm also joined by Stephanie Yancer from the Michigan DNR and Tom Skelton from the Michigan Geocaching organization. Thank you so much to both of you for joining us. Just as a reminder to everyone who's joining us on both Facebook Live and the Zoom webinar, we encourage you to ask questions throughout the presentation that we can answer at the end of the presentation. If you're joining us on Zoom, there's a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen you can use to ask questions. And if you're joining us on the Facebook Live, go ahead and put your questions in the comment section. We'll be sure to answer those at the end of the presentation. So without further ado, Stephanie and Tom, I'll hand it over to you and we can go ahead and get started.
Hi, Catherine. Thanks. It's good to be here this afternoon.
Hi, thanks, Catherine. Well, we wanted to come here today to talk to you about geocaching and the Michigan State Park Centennial GeoTour. So we'll jump right into it and hopefully we'll have some time for questions and answers at the end.
We probably ought to start with what is geocaching, Stephanie? And I'm going to say my favorite catchphrase for it is that it's a high-tech treasure hunt.
Yes.
There are millions of geocachers around the world. I can't think of any country that doesn't have them. And over 3 million live geocaches around the world. But what is a geocache? Let's look at some of these cleverly hidden containers and figure out how you find them, what you do with them when you find them, and how much fun it can be.
Yeah, my favorite saying for geocaching is using multi-million-dollar technology to find Tupperware in the woods.
Oh, you've seen my webpage.
I have. So let's get into geocaching. In case you haven't heard of it, it is a real-world treasure hunting game. There, like you said, there are millions of people, millions of geocaches worldwide. So pretty much wherever you go, you're able to find a geocache.
Did you know that there are 2 at the South Pole and 1 on the International Space Station?
I did not know that. That's pretty cool.
Ha.
How many times has that one on the International Space Station been found?
I think twice, both of them by astronauts who were there at the time.
Kind of have an advantage, don't they?
They do. So let's look at some. Here, what is a geocache? They come in all kinds of sizes. These are some pictures of some. That micro up there, that's a tiny little metal cylinder, maybe 3/8 of an inch in diameter and a 1/2 inch tall, usually a little magnet underneath it that holds it in place on something metal. Those are tiny. They can be really hard to find. A small geocache, that kind of hard to see what that photo is, but that's a leftover container with a kind of a snap-on lid. Maybe holds a quart of leftovers, but this one's full of little trinkets. And we would also know, of course, that there would be some kind of log in there. We'll get to that in just a minute. The standard or regular size geocache is a little bit bigger than that. That's a picture of probably a 30mm ammo can. Ammo cans make great geocache containers because they seal tightly, they're pretty leak proof, and they're almost indestructible. So you'll see a lot of geocaches out there that are hiding in an ammo can like that. Now, when you showed me this presentation, Stephanie, the large there, that's pretty good size. A large can be anything over the size of about a 5-gallon paint bucket. As you can see, this one's quite a bit bigger than that. But I recognize that geocache. That's GCK25B. It is at Geocaching World Headquarters in Seattle, and I logged and found that one 3 years ago. What's the largest one you found, incidentally? Do you know?
The largest one I've found has been a 5-gallon pail, and it was about 30 feet up in a tree, and it's to a string that you had to lower it down to the ground to get into it. So it's pretty cleverly hidden.
Yeah, the largest one I've found is one of the state park GeoTour caches. The one in Algonac State Park is very large. But that's not the largest one in the state of Michigan, incidentally. There's one south of Kalamazoo that is an outhouse. No kidding.
Very cool. Yeah.
So they come in lots of shapes and sizes, as we can see here.
Yep.
They also have a difficulty and a terrain rating, and I'm going to take these in the other order because it's easier to explain that way. The terrain rating, it's a number from 1 to 5, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, and so on. A terrain rating of 1 probably is handicap accessible. It's going to be very easy to walk or roll or ride or just about anything to get to it. On the other hand, a terrain of 5, that's the other end of the scale. And a terrain of 5 is probably going to require some kind of special equipment to get to. A canoe, a kayak, mountain climbing equipment, scuba gear. I've seen them all. I haven't found very many terrain 5s. How about you? Have you found very many?
I don't think I have. Actually, I think mine are normally in the 2 to 3 range.
Okay, so you're going after the little bit easier stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
The difficulty rating, same deal, 1 through 5 by half increments. And this is once you get there, after you've dealt with the terrain, how hard or how sneaky is it to find? Difficulty of 1 is going to be probably sitting out in plain sight. Or it may be there, but if it's got a higher difficulty rating, you may be able to see, okay, like this thing that's on the slide there, the person is holding in their hand, that's got the cache log inside it, but how do you open it up? And it looks like that's kind of like a Dan Brown novel, one of those cryptics things. You've got to enter the right code into it to get it open. So that's going to be higher difficulty.
Yeah, there are a lot of those out there too. Usually called puzzle caches, where you have to solve something in order to open it up and figure it out.
Right. Those are fun. I like them.
Those are fun. Those are some of my favorites.
So how do I find a geocache? A couple of different ways. I started out with a handheld GPS receiver, probably back before the days of when there actually was a geocaching app. I certainly did not have a smartphone back then. With the handheld GPS receiver, you just enter the coordinates of what you're trying to find into it and then let it walk you there. With the free geocaching app, you can download that from Google Play or from the Apple Store. It's free for either platform. Yes, free to download, free to install, free to use. There's no charge for geocaching or for the app. And the app will show you a map on your screen and how to navigate to it. Now, here's something that a lot of people don't get at the first time out. Once you get close to it, put the phone back in your pocket and start thinking and looking. I know that was one of the hardest things for me to learn how to do.
Yeah, and one of the things I really like about the geocaching app too is that it gives you an actual compass that will point you in the right direction. But it doesn't necessarily work unless you're actually moving. So if you're standing still, the compass could spin and it makes it look like you can't find it. But once you start moving, it'll actually tell you if you're going the right direction or not.
Yeah, that was hard to figure out, is that you got to be moving for it to point the right direction.
Yeah.
So what do you do when you find it? You figure that out? Here's a picture of a happy geocacher, and now here's a picture of what's in. Well, the only thing I know is going to be inside of that geocache is some kind of log or piece of paper or scrap of paper or something like that. And once you found it and opened the geocache, you put the date and your geocaching name on it. If there's a book like this one on the right side of the slide, you can write more. I've seen people who've written a couple of paragraphs even, who's with them, what the weather was like, how weird it was getting to this geocache, all kinds of neat things. But all you really need to do is, like the one on the left there, those are people who've written today's date and their geocaching name on it.
Yep. Tom, what's your geocaching name?
My name is I Follow Roads, which is a bad pun based on the fact that I'm also an airplane pilot.
Oh, no.
If you want the whole story, go to my geocaching profile and read it, because I've written it up there.
I'll have to check that out. My geocaching name is Isabella Road. So it's a lot of fun to even make up your own name for your geocaching account.
My wife is also a geocacher. She was the nature director at a Boy Scout camp for a number of years. So her geocaching name is Mother Nature.
Oh, I love it.
Isn't that nice?
That is cool. So what else are you going to find in a geocache?
Well, other than that log, you may find swag, stuff we all get, or you can make up your own name for that acronym. Swag typically is little toys, knickknacks, trinkets. I found all kinds of other weird things in it. I found books, I found CDs and DVDs. I found a computer network interface card once. The intention, though, is that this is stuff you can trade in and out of the geocache. The ethic, though, is if you take something, put something else back in of equal or better value. Yep. That's really all that we need. These are kids love finding the little toys and trinkets in geocaches. Geocaching is a kid-friendly game. We like it.
Yes,
And yes, I just called myself a kid.
I'm there with you.
Yeah. The other thing we can find are these things called trackables. Every trackable has a code number that's unique to that specific trackable. And the intention is by following that code number on geocaching.com, you can figure out where this trackable has been. And then if you watch it after that, where it's gone. If you remove a trackable from a geocache, you should go to that trackable's webpage on geocaching.com and make a log entry that says, I removed it from this geocache. And then within the next week or two, put it in another geocache and make another log entry that says, I dropped it in this other geocache over here. They're fun to watch. I own half a dozen of them. And unfortunately, over time, they frequently disappear. But I've got a couple of them. It was the set of car keys to an old car that I drove to the junkyard. And I put a trackable tag on it. And it went all over Canada, believe it or not, more miles than the car had.
That's funny. I actually found a trackable one time. It was the first trackable I ever found, and it was this little tiny ladybug stuffed animal, and it came from France. And normally when you find a trackable, there's a goal attached to it. And the goal of this trackable was to go to Mackinac Island. So I just happened to live on the island at that time. So it was easy to make it get there. But very, very fun when you can find out what their goal is and help it get closer to its goal.
Yep. I've carried trackables across country. I had one that was headed for Washington State, and I carried it from here to someplace in Wyoming and dropped it there at an interstate highway junction.
Yep, we've done the same thing. We found them here, and their goal was to just make as many miles as they could, and we dropped them at some geocaches at a rest area in Georgia. So
yep.
We got a lot of miles too.
Yeah, they're fun to watch.
They are.
So once we've done all that, we've signed the log, we've traded swag, we've maybe taken out or dropped off a trackable, then put the geocache back where you found it, exactly as you found it. As a person who hides geocaches, even if you think there's a better spot over there, I want you to put my geocache back where I put it because I wanted it there, maybe for some reason or not, but you don't know.
Yeah, and the other thing is too, when you're looking for a geocache, you're looking for it by using a GPS, which is essentially using longitude and latitude coordinates. So if you move it somewhere, those longitude and latitude coordinates are no longer good. So you have to put it as that.
So what else do we do? Oh, then we go online to geocaching.com or in the geocaching app and log hey, I found this geocache. And you can, again, write notes on that about how sneaky or how weird the find was, who was with you, what the weather was like, anything else. You should read all kinds of cool things in the notes. But don't spoil the fun. I don't want to read, yeah, this geocache, you have to lift the lid off of here, you dial the combination, and here's the combination in. I don't want to do that.
Right. Yeah, and the other thing too is you can, if you're stuck finding a geocache, you can actually go to these logs online or on your app, and you can read through them, and they might give you a little bit of a hint. If the hint on the actual geocache doesn't make it as easy, you can go through and you can read some of the logs, and somebody might kind of hint towards it. So that those may be helpful too when you're looking for them.
I've found some helpful and useful information that way. I think of the oldest geocache in New York State, which is up the side of a mountain. And the person about 5 times before me had said, there's parking at these coordinates, then walk to these coordinates and pick up the trail that goes down the hill.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah, it was nice.
Very helpful.
Here's some other good hints. Always bring a pen. I tell people if you didn't sign the log, you didn't find it.
Yeah.
Not everybody agrees with me, but always bring a pen. You cannot guarantee, I can't guarantee that even the pen that I left in my cache is going to be there or even work a year from now. In fact, in Michigan, it's probably not a good idea to leave a ballpoint pen in a geocache because they freeze and then they explode.
Yeah.
That makes a mess.
Yes. So Tom mentioned it earlier too, but when you're about within 30 feet or so of a geocache, you want to put your phone away or you want to put your GPS away, and you want to look for where's going to be a good hiding spot. What seems to make sense to me that this would be a place where a geocache would be hidden.
My catchphrase is think like a geocacher.
Yeah. And the other thing too, so people should know what muggles are. They're non-magic people in Harry Potter, right? Well, in geocaching, they are non-geocachers. So whenever you're looking for a geocache, you need to be stealthy because there are muggles that will maybe find it and not know what it is because they saw you find it. So you have to be stealthy when you're looking for these two.
You sneaky.
Yes.
This is another good hint, and you already touched on it, Stephanie. If you're having trouble, look at the cache description. Many caches do have a hint right on the cache page, and you may find useful information in the other logs. I love this picture of the dog, the next photo. Geocaches will never be buried. Don't dig, please.
Yeah. Yep. And then the last one here is always, we have a thing called cache in, trash out. So if you're going geocaching, just grab a bag and take it with you. And if you happen to see some trash laying around, you can take it out with you.
I know a cacher who always has a bag with him and always picks up litter.
Yeah. So now on to the Michigan State Park Centennial GeoTour.
Yeah, well, what's a GeoTour anyway, Stephanie? You want to explain that to us?
So a GeoTour is where you have a collection of geocaches all together as a tour where you can go and find all of these at once or, well, within a certain time frame. So our Centennial was in 2019, and we started this GeoTour with the Michigan Geocaching Organization and geocaching.com. It's a 3-year tour, and with this tour, we placed 100 new geocaches in over 90 state parks, different state parks. So there's a lot of different places that you could visit. This is a brief overview of how to play. I'm going to run through this really quickly because on the next page, we'll actually show you the ticket, and all this information is on the ticket too. But first of all, you want to go to geocaching and sign up for an account. You can download the app or use the coordinates that are listed on the different geocache pages. You're going to get a ticket. So that's how you log your finds for our GeoTour.
Download that from where, Stephanie?
So they can download it from the website. And actually in our resources, you can actually download it from there too. So if you're watching this and can get into the resources that we've provided, you can do it there, or you can go to michigan.gov/stateparks100 and it's there too. Once you find the caches, you log them. There's code words in each of the caches. So you want to record that word on your ticket.
That one's important right there. I found a couple and forgot to write down the code word and had to go back later and look at it again.
Yeah. And then you can log them online and then send your completed ticket to Michigan Geocaching.
So what's the ticket look like?
This is a little portion of the ticket. So it gives a list of all the 100 geocaches and it lists them by region. So we have 4 different regions, and once you submit it, you can actually get these rewards.
So I need to fill that magic code word in there for each of those geocaches?
Yes, you do. Yep.
Okay. And I saw a list of 25 there for one of the 4 regions, but 7 of them were red. Are those special?
Yes. So these ones that are red they're still going to have a code word, but they're going to be, those ones are going to be mandatory. So in order to get your path tag for that region, you have to have those ones in red.
5 out of the 7 of them, as I recall, right?
I believe so. Yeah, and it'll tell you on the rest of this ticket that's not on this slide, tells you all the directions and things like that too. So, and when you download it, you can take a look at that as well.
You mentioned path tags. Those are cool.
Yes, they are. So these are 4 of the path tags that you can earn for the GeoTour and 2 of the Geo coins. So the path tags are given once you complete a region. And then once you complete either 3 or 4 regions, you can get either a silver or gold coin.
Those are rather heavy coins too. They're kind of cool.
Yes, they are. They are very heavy. So here is how you can get in touch with Tom and I. On geocaching.com, there's a website or the messaging function. As I mentioned before, I'm Isabella Road. Tom is I Follow Roads. And there's also my email address. And I think, do we have time for some questions, Catherine?
Yeah, We can take a couple questions. We're short on time. We can definitely take a couple questions. First of all, thank you so much. This is so exciting. I haven't started the Centennial geocaching yet, but I'm excited to this summer, especially as the weather is warming up. So if anyone has any questions, if you're listening on the webinar, on the Zoom webinar, go ahead and use the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen to ask your questions. And if you're joining us on Facebook Live, you can put your questions right in the comment section, and I'll be sure to ask those for you. So I have a question for you both. Since you both do a lot of geocaching, I'm curious, what's the weirdest geocache that you found, or the most exciting?
I'll let you go ahead and answer that, Tom.
I was trying to figure out, okay, weirdest. I'm not sure which ones would qualify as weird. I'll tell you that one of the Centennial GeoTour caches along the Menominee River in the UP was one of the prettiest geocaches. It's about almost a 1 mile walk along the river, and that, as the river goes through the gorge there, is just a beautiful, beautiful hike. I really enjoyed it.
So one of the weirdest geocaches I've found, I actually was in California, and we were out near the airport, and there was a chain link fence, and there was a vase of flowers hanging on the fence, and it looked odd. That happened to be the geocache, and it wasn't like you picked the flowers out and it's in there. You actually had to pick up the whole vase, and it was attached on the back of it. So it was very interesting, but if somebody were walking along, they wouldn't know that it's a geocache, but because we had the coordinates and that's where it was taking us, we thought, yeah, it is kind of odd actually. So that was a fun one.
You mentioned one earlier that was hanging in a tree and you had to lower by a rope. I found one similar to that was kind of fun. It was sitting like 10 feet outside of the front door of a business along, God, I've drawn a blank here on the Houghton Lake.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've found quite a few very interesting ones. I always love the little micros because they're the ones that aren't the most obvious. So I found
can be sneaky.
Yeah, I've actually found some that are bolts that were on a bridge.
Yep.
Something you wouldn't expect, but it's always fun. So,
Catherine, do we have any other questions?
No questions right now. Just some comments from Cecilia and Jonathan, who are really excited to get started with the Centennial GeoTour. Armin also said it looks so fun. They've done a couple, but are looking to do some within the parks. So yeah, sounds like lots of people excited to get started.
I'm going to take a minute or so here to talk about something that geocaching is sort of developing on an experimental basis right now. Stephanie, we didn't mention this during the presentation. They're called Adventure Labs. It's another app you can download for your smartphone, also from Google Play and from the Apple Store. The idea is, instead of having a container, the physical container where you go find it and sign a log, instead your phone takes you from place to place and you answer questions about what you found there. And each of those also counts as a geocache find. There are, believe it or not, 3 of those adventure labs on the campus at Michigan State already. One of them is a tour of the architecture of various buildings. Another one leads you from tree to tree and asks questions about those trees. And the third one, which I'm going to pat myself on the back and say I put out, leads you from garden to garden across the university campus.
Yeah, I haven't tried any adventure labs yet, but I'm very excited to, because they sound really cool.
I've done probably a dozen of them, and every one of them is interesting and different in a different way.
Yeah. Yep.
Very cool. Well, there you go. Anyone in the Lansing region, I'm excited to go check those out on MSU's campus.
Not just Lansing, there are over 100 adventure labs around the state already.
Well, with that, we're unfortunately out of time, but thank you again to both of you for joining us and sharing more about geocaching. I know I'm excited to get started. And thank you again for everyone tuning in. I hope you have a fun time getting out there and exploring. And I hope that you join us for the rest of the MSU Science Festival. It's taking place throughout the entire month of April. You can learn more about upcoming programs on our website at sciencefestival.msu.edu. Thanks so much.
Thanks for hosting, Catherine.
Of course. Take care.
Bye.